Hello everyone, this is tryinmorning here, and I've been tagged, so that means I have to answer a couple of questions, in this case regarding video games. And the person who just so happened to tag me was Christy. Let me see if I can find her username exactly, because it's a bunch of numbers as well, in case you want to go find it later. Right, Christy78968. Yeah, she also does a bit of visual novels as well and other games, which might interest you if you are willing to check that kind of thing out. And if you watch my channel, I'm assuming you probably are, because that's a lot of what I do. And it's what's popular right now, I suppose. So go give it a shot. Anyway, like I said, I've been tagged, which means if you're kind of new to this whole tagging thing, which it's kind of been around for a while, so I'm assuming you probably know what this is. But then again, there's some people that are new to the internet, so they may not exactly be in the know. There's always new people coming to the internet, new kids, or I don't know, just people from other locations that just got the internet. I have no clue what I'm even talking about, but let's get to the question, shall we? The first question is, what is your favorite video game of all time? That's a bit of a big question, of all time. If I had to pick one, because I think I've mentioned it before, although it's been a while since I did that video, so I'm not exactly certain, I said it was The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. And that's a game that I played so many years ago now. I think the first time I played it was 2004, but the game originally came out in 2002, I want to say. I think it was May of 2002, though I could be wrong on that. And it was a very, very interesting game for me at the time because I hadn't really played a lot of those open world games. And, even at that time, while there were open world games before that, it was pretty much, I think, one of the first really big ones. There's more before then, but for me, it was the first, I'll say. Besides that, there was like Fable, but that wasn't really even anywhere close to being the kind of open worldness that you got in Morrowind, where you could pretty much do anything you wanted. I mean, you could turn to a vampire, you could even turn to a werewolf in the expansions, and do all sorts of things. I don't know if that's two really random things to mention, but I remember when I was reading about the game before I got it, and I saw people talking about oh, when you become a werewolf, when you become a vampire, I'm like, wow, what kind of game is this? It sounded interesting to me because at the time, I really hadn't heard of many other games like that. So I decided to check it out, and it became one of my favorite games. I think I got it sometime in 2004. I want to say it was probably the summer of 2004. And I played it a lot during that summer. I played it the year after, 2005. I played it 2006. In 2006, I think they came out with Oblivion, which I got, but I really didn't like anywhere near as much as Morrowind. So I played that a bit, but then I went back to play Morrowind in 2007. In 2008, 2009, even up to 2010, I played a lot of Morrowind. And at that point, I kind of started to get into other things, so I really wasn't playing it anywhere as much as I was in the past. But overall, I put a lot of time into that game, and it's one of my favorite by far. To this day, I even kind of plan to get into a playthrough of that at some point, though. Right now, it's not anywhere anytime soon, just to let you guys know. And the second question of this tag video is, what is your favorite video game genre? I'm not gonna lie, that's a bit of a difficult question for me because I really don't pay much attention to the genre of games. I'm more interested in the storylines of games. And by that I mean, over the course of playing video games, which I've been doing since I was 3 or 4 years old, I've played a lot of games of different genres, and I've enjoyed them all pretty much, from early games like Mario Brothers, Zelda, Final Fantasy, there's Star Fox. I would say that the games that I was least likely to play growing up, and even now, are those kinds of arcadey games. I was never really big into Pac-Man or that kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because it's from my parents' generation, and I just, I don't know. I just was never a really big fan of that kind of game. Like Pac-Man, those kind of arcade shooters, what is it? I don't even know what the shooter game is when you just are going in a straight line and you're shooting anything that comes your way. Those space shooters. I can't think of an example right now, but I know they have very generic titles, some of them too, so I don't know why I can't remember them right now. But I was never a big fan of those games. Other than that, yeah, I played a a lot of genres: platformers, RPGs, action adventure is kind of a broad genre, which is kind of a catch-all for any game. But yeah, action adventure, first-person shooters, I love those. Open world games, which I don't know, they kind of fall under other categories as well. But you know, the idea of open world games in general, I kind of like. And even now, I guess if I wanted to pick one now, I could say visual novels because we've been playing a lot of those. So, well, I wouldn't say they're my favorite. I've definitely picked up an appreciation for them. So, I don't know, game genres, I can't really pick one because to me, there are other factors that are more important than the genre itself. I can get into any genre if the story's good, if the gameplay's good. Ones that I'm more predisposed to, though, I suppose, would be RPGs, at least at one point RPGs, and first-person shooters, I would kind of say, although not in the sense of games like today. Like, I was a big fan of first-person shooters from, say, like 20 years ago, but nowadays I don't really play first-person shooters because, I don't know, there's, I guess, generic at this point. Although I will say I don't really try them out, so I really can't make a judgment like that. I mean, to me it seems generic, and I don't really want to try them out. I mean, I'm sure if you're a fan of first-person shooters, you could probably find something in there that you like from it and something that's unique to different games. But for me, anyway, I don't really have an interest in it, so I don't see anything good in it. But, you know, that's just me. Let's see, the third question is, what is the earliest game you remember? Oh, man. So this is another question which I probably won't be able to answer satisfactorily. Yeah. I probably will not be able to answer this one because there's so many games that I played when I was young, and it's so long ago at this point that I can't even really separate memories from one another. Like, they all kind of mix together. Like, I can separate things from, say, like the time from when I was 6 to when I was 8. I could be like, oh yeah, I remember, you know, I was playing this then, and then I was looking forward to this game. Like, I have memories that I can recall of, like, looking forward to the N64 generation. I was like, oh wow, these are the new games coming out. There's Mario 64, there's Zelda Ocarina of Time, there's, Final Fantasy 7 coming out for the PlayStation. There's all these new games that are coming out which are like redefining genres and, pushing gaming to this next level of 3D gaming, of full motion video, that kind of thing. And I remember that, like, looking forward to that. But before then, I played games, but I can't really distinguish one from the other, as in, I played this one first, I played that one first. Even games that came out, like, separate from each other, like, say, Mario Brothers 3, or Super Mario World, or the original Zelda and A Link to the Past, like, when I played those games, doesn't really stick in my mind as the exact year or, month or whatever. Even if a game came out later, like, I can't recall the exact date that A Link to the Past came out. It was like maybe 91 or 92. In either case, I think at that point I was too young to really be aware of it being new. It was just kind of a game that I played like any other. So early memories of games include, I would just say, like Zelda, Mario, whatever games were new at the time, like, say, Super Mario Bros. 3. I played the original Mario Bros. As well at the time. I played them all the Zelda games, the first one, the second one, and A Link to the Past. Like I said, I can't really recall, though, if I played the first games before this A Link to the Past came out, because that was 91. I want to say it's 91, which means I could have played them all together, and it all just got jumbled together. Final Fantasy, maybe I played a little bit later because there's a lot of reading in the game, but I remember I did play that game and I like barely knew how to read, so it was probably like 4 or 5 or something, if I had to make a guess. And like, it's a lot of text in that game, so it's difficult for a kid who, isn't sure of his vocabulary, and even now you can tell I don't even fucking speak good, whatever. Even games like Wolfenstein and Doom I played, and that kind of runs together too, because those came out, like, I want to say 92 or 93. I mean, Wolfenstein was a bit earlier. I don't know. Maybe it was 91 or 92. And by Wolfenstein, I mean, it was like the 3D one that came out right before Doom. I know there's a couple of Wolfenstein games, but I'm talking about that one. And Doom came out, was it 93 actually? I think it might have been 93, which is a bit later, because I remember my cousin played it and he showed me that. And then that was actually like the precursor to me getting my first computer, because I'm like, oh, I have to get this game. I have to have a computer. And then, like, I got my computer when I was 6. because that would be 94, I think. Yeah. Anyway, I think I answered that question. What was the question even? Oh, earliest gaming memories or earliest game. Yeah, I can't really pick out a single game, but I think I gave you an overall idea of what the first games I played were. Just kind of a blur to me at this point because it's over 20 years ago, more than that even. What game am I looking forward to the most? Oh, this is an easier question because there's not many games I'm looking forward to at this point. I've gotten to the point where a lot of the games from the series that I've enjoyed in the past, I kind of don't really care about anymore. Like even Final Fantasy, which is a series I really liked growing up, at this point I don't really care very much for. So like Final Fantasy 15, I'm kind of meh about. I don't really look forward to it. Though I may give it a shot just because I would love to see Final Fantasy return to the heights that it once was, but I don't feel very confident that it will. Having said that, that's kind of the opposite of the question. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not really looking forward to most. The next Zelda game, even that I don't really care very much about. Mario games, like I don't even know what Mario games are coming out. They probably came out with stuff recently. I just don't really care much for it. So let's say like games that I do look forward to then, instead of all the ones that I don't care about. I guess I would have to go to the visual novel realm to actually talk about games that I care for at this point, because those have been the games that have been the most enjoyable to me that I've played recently. So, like Magical Diary, I know the creator of Magical Diary, of Hanako Games, they're producing a new game, which recently they've made an announcement about, and while I haven't really investigated it in depth, it seems like it could be pretty good. And some of the ideas behind it that the developers talked about have seemed pretty interesting to me, and I'm looking forward to actually trying it out. So yeah, that's a game I'm looking forward to. Also, the follow-up to the Jisei series, which, I don't know, they all seem to be like Jisei, Kansei, Yusei, so I'll probably be something say. So whatever game that'll be, I'm looking forward to. And supposedly we're going to hear a bit about that coming up soon in the new year. I don't know if it means the game will be out in this new year, or we'll at least get an announcement about it being produced and maybe a hint as to what's going to be going on in it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm relatively patient, so, I don't get too angsty, looking forward to these games like, oh God, I need details. I need the details. Why aren't you telling me? Because I know some people flip out about games like they need to know now. At this point, they'll come out when it comes out, and, the developers should take their time and make sure they make the best game possible. I don't really see the point of making developers rush to put out a new game or a sequel to a game when, they have other things that are percolating in their minds and you want to let them develop their ideas. At least that's my perspective. Because there's too many times when a game does come out, and I'm looking at more like the mainstream games that I've mentioned previous to this, too many times that a game's been rushed and it isn't fully developed, and I feel like the ideas are kind of half-assed. So I think I turned off of the... okay, here we go. Here are the questions. So the next one, did I give it a specific answer? Okay. If I had to pick a game that I'm looking forward to, I would say it's the follow-up to, well, not the follow-up to, but the next game from Hanako Games, and the follow-up to the Jisei series. Least favorite video game character. Okay, who is my least favorite video game character? If I had to pick one, I'm not sure I'd be able to pick one. To be quite honest, I don't really think too much about, oh, I hate this character. They're terrible. Actually, I do. That's a lie. There are a lot of times when I pick on a character in a game because I don't like them for any specific reason. Either because, I don't know, their character's just annoying, or maybe they're not fully developed, or whatever. I guess what really annoys me, though, is when a character's not fully developed, if I had to pick that as a least favorite aspect of a character. Because personality, sometimes characters are meant to be annoying to, obviously elicit a response from the viewer or the player of the game or whatever. And, it's intentional, and characters like that are actually good because they're supposed to elicit emotions from you, whether it's disgust or anger or whatever it is. But games that are, characters that I really hate would probably be ones that I feel are just terrible characters in general, maybe because the writing around them's terrible, or something about them just doesn't seem right to me. So in that respect, I'd probably have to include the entire cast of Kingdom Hearts, because those games are just some of the worst games I've ever seen. The reason it sticks out in my mind is because I've been watching Dave the Usher play that game, and goodness, if that game's not terrible. I never really played it myself. When it first came out, I saw the game and I was like, this doesn't appeal to me at all. It's Disney mixed with Final Fantasy, and I thought that was incredibly dumb. You know, at the time it came out, I was, in my teenage years? I was probably like 13 or 14? Because I don't recall when it first came out, but it was in the early 2000s. And I just thought it looked dumb. And I don't know if I want to say it was a money grab, but it's like, okay, let's mix Square with Disney characters because that'll be popular and it'll sell. That's what it seemed to me. I'm not saying it was, but I don't know. And maybe because I was a teenager at the time, I didn't want to be like playing games that was filled with kiddie shit, so to say. And like I was just kind of turned off from it. I think what most annoyed me, though, if I had to say, and you know, it's kind of struck me now, is what most annoys me is the way it kind of handled Final Fantasy characters, which I was a big fan of Final Fantasy up until that time. Like, that's right around the time I stopped getting to Final Fantasy games. You know, the end of the PlayStation era, going to the PlayStation 2, you know, they had Final Fantasy X, and then after that, I didn't really play Final Fantasy anymore. But what annoyed me was that they took characters from the other games and they put them in Kingdom Hearts, and they kind of changed the story around the characters. You know, I don't even think the Kingdom Hearts games are supposed to be canon, but even then, just seeing the way these characters are now in this new setting kind of annoyed me. You know, filled with interacting with Disney characters. That just, I don't know, it bothered me. Not extensively, but like just the bit where I was like, I don't really have an interest in playing this. So I didn't play the game. Fast forward a couple of years later, when I started dating my girlfriend, we actually started playing a couple of games together, and that included Twilight Princess. This is before we Let's Played it. This is back around, like, let's say 2006, 2007. We started playing the Twilight Princess, some of the Final Fantasy games. We played The Elder Scrolls. We played Orphan. This is all before we were Let's Playing the games. And that's kind of where we got inspiration to pick the games that we did pick later on. But anyway, yeah, we played those games. And then she had played, you know, when she was younger, I guess when the game first came out, she had played Kingdom Hearts. So she had a copy of it. And she, you know, mentioned that she had it. I don't remember, like, how this came up, but eventually we were like, all right, we'll try Kingdom Hearts and see how that goes. I think it was after we played Orphan, because I'm like, you know, this game's kind of shitty. You know, we'll get a laugh out of playing Orphan. And then, you know, we obviously did, so much so that we ended up playing it a couple of years later for YouTube. And she was like, oh, what about Kingdom Hearts? You know, it's kind of a game that I played when I was younger and I enjoyed, but, you know, it's kind of cheesy. I'm like, whatever, you know, what the hell? I want to get a laugh out of something. I might as well get a laugh out of Kingdom Hearts, which is a game that I thought would be bad. And, you know, maybe the gameplay will be good. Because, you know, obviously I heard about Kingdom Hearts, and, you know, I know a lot of people enjoy Kingdom Hearts, but I ended up playing the game, you know, expecting that, you know, I probably wouldn't enjoy the story, but at least the gameplay would be good. And that wasn't the case. I played very little of the game. I probably played about an hour or two. And I got up to, I think, the level where you're with Alice in Wonderland. I think it's one of the first levels of the game, really. And I was just like, this is just stupid. The story's stupid. It makes no sense so far. And I asked her, is the story ever going to make sense? And she's like, well, she couldn't really remember. And she's like, probably not. And I'm like, eh. And then the gameplay was just painful. Like, the controls are awkward in the game. The fighting's kind of awkward, because the fighting's done through the menu. Like, you have it's like they try to mix an RPG with an action game, and it just felt like a mess to me, because you have a menu which has, like, attack, magic, items, and, like, a combo or special. I don't remember what it was. And then you have to, like, click through the different things. Like, mostly you just mash X, like, while you're on attack, and that works. But then if you want to go to magic, then you have to hit the D-pad down and select magic. It just felt awkward to me and not very intuitive. I felt it was just a poor design, and I don't know, I didn't enjoy it. You know, compared to RPGs, which, you know, the menu makes sense, and then compared to action games where, you know, obviously you're doing things, you're not really fumbling around with a menu or that kind of thing. They try to mix the two, I guess, to make a hybrid, but it felt like just crap to me. It felt like a mess. And then on top of that, a lot of the gameplay elements just weren't very fun. Like, oh, collect the Dalmatians, collect the gummy ship parts, collect this, collect that, you know. I guess that was from the point in gamings where collectathons were like a huge thing, and I never really was a huge fan of that, and to this day I still really am not, like so much so that when I played Twilight Princess, I never really made it an important point to like collect everything. I just went through the main game and did it, and then if anyone like wanted me to collect things, I'm just like, too bad, go watch someone else's walkthrough of that game because I have no patience for that. So yeah, I mean, that's a bit unrelated because I'm talking about characters, but I'm talking about the gameplay itself. But yeah, I said the story didn't make sense. The characters were stupid. All the Disney characters felt just like they were shoehorned in there. Like, all right, we're going to take Disney characters, insert them in. They have nothing to do with the game itself. Excuse me for a minute. Okay, pardon me, folks. I just had a bit of a interruption. So, actually, it's probably a good thing because I was rambling on a bit about Kingdom Hearts. I don't even think that was the question asked. What was it again? It was, least favorite video game character. Yeah, so the cast of Kingdom Hearts, because I feel like the Disney characters were all shoehorned in there. They really didn't need to be in the game itself because they had nothing to do with the overall story. I should probably conclude with the rant I was going on because I said I didn't really play much of Kingdom Hearts. I did watch Let's Plays of it. I watched a Let's Play done by a user called Red Clock who played Kingdom Hearts 2. And that was like the first thing I saw before I even like saw Kingdom Hearts 1. And then later on I saw someone play Kingdom Hearts 1 just so I could understand what the story of that was. And yeah, they did like the whole game, so I was able to get a grasp of what the story was, you know, what was going on. And then I even looked up Wikipedia, not Wikipedia, but whatever wiki Kingdom Hearts has to see information about the game and try to understand things that didn't make sense to me, which was a lot. And even after reading that, I'm like, that still doesn't make sense. It's just vague nonsense. It's convoluted story points, which don't really amount to anything. And the motives of characters are kind of just on the whim of the plot, you know, just to fulfill the need of where the plot has to go. So, yeah, I thought it was written terribly. I thought the characters were done terribly. I think I also mentioned I was watching Dave the Usher's playthrough of Kingdom Hearts, which is currently in progress as of the recording of this video. And he kind of mentions that he enjoys the original characters of the game, and by that he means like Sora and Riku and Kairi, because at least they have their own kind of story, which I have to say, I feel like it's not really developed at all within the game, having seen the whole game to its conclusion. Because what they'll do is they'll play, that's not really the word I'm looking for. What they'll do is, in Kingdom Hearts, you'll do a little bit of one thing. Like say in the very beginning of the game, you develop the three characters and their relationships, and you kind of get an understanding of, okay, this is Sora, this is Riku, this is Kairi. You know, Sora and Riku have this kind of, you know, almost sibling rivalry, although they're not brothers. You know, they're very close to each other, so they have this competitive rivalry with each other. And it kind of involves Kairi because I guess they're at that age where they're developing emotions for the other sex, and you can kind of tell that they're competitive with one another to try to impress her or whatever. And as that goes on, well, it doesn't really go on, because what happens is very quickly the game gets interrupted by Disney plot or Final Fantasy plot or some kind of convoluted mix of the two. And then they get cast aside from one another, they get separated and end up in different areas. They end up joining different factions and kind of competing against each other more violently, I guess you could say. But it's very sparse. Like, it happens sparsely throughout the game that you actually have scenes involving them. Most of the game is, all right, we're in Aladdin's world. We're going to do now things involving Aladdin. Or now we're in, what other worlds do they have? Alice in Wonderland was one of the first worlds. We're going to now do things involving Alice. And it's very disconnected from one another. It's very loosely connected. Like, overall, I think there is an overarching plot which involves the different characters from those worlds. And that's why you have to go to them. That's why the bad guys are out to capture certain people or whatever. I don't want to say things that are too spoilery for the game itself, but it all feels very loosely connected and just done to make a overall Disney game. And the main characters of the game, Sora, Riku, and Kairi, I feel don't really get developed that well. And more often than that, their development annoys me more than anything. And then the second game, it just gets even more convoluted from there. I'm not even going to get into that, but I just don't like the characters from that game. And the Final Fantasy characters are just there for absolutely no reason other than it's a Square game and they want to include Final Fantasy characters. They really have nothing else to do with the game whatsoever. There's no purpose for them. They could have been written as any other character and it would have made more sense, because at least then it wouldn't be some vague reference to a Final Fantasy game trying to get a response, I guess, from the fanboys. Like, oh, hey, Final Fantasy fanboys, why don't you play this game as Final Fantasy characters? Like, nope, it's really not related to Final Fantasy in any way, and I want no part in it. So yeah, long rant. Yeah, sorry, Kingdom Hearts fans, I have no love for the game. Let's see, and the final question, now that I've taken up like an hour ranting about Kingdom Hearts instead, and the last question that we have to answer is, who is my favorite video game character? Well, this is also a kind of a difficult question, because I would say my favorite kind of video game character is a protagonist that you play as, which is more of a blank slate from which you can, choose your own path and you can decide your own personality by, conversation choices or quest choices. Like, you could save this guy, or you could save that guy, or you could save neither and, steal their money or something like that. Like, I kind of like that kind of thing, where your character is basically whatever you make him out to be. That's my favorite kind of character in a game. But it's also kind of a cop-out, I suppose, because it's more of a favorite protagonist. And if I had to pick a character that's, already designed and has his own personality in like a scripted game, well, obviously all games are scripted, but somehow are scripted, have different choices. But in a more linear game, I would say it's probably... So I guess overall, if I did have to pick a character, I would say maybe Solid Snake, because I feel like he was one of the first characters in video games to really get developed well. It was all the way back in 1998, right? Or 1999, when Metal Gear Solid came out. Very story-oriented, a lot of character development. I'm sure there were games before that, but maybe I just can't think of them right now. But that's like one of the first games that I felt like they really build up strong characters, and of those, I guess I'd pick Solid Snake as the most impactful, I guess, at least on me. So yeah, hopefully that's a satisfactory answer. If not, excuse me, I guess I'm just bad at coming up with answers to these questions, which was kind of like the story with most of them, where I just rambled on forever and kind of got into a bunch of other things which weren't really related, but maybe you enjoy them. Maybe I'll cut them out and I'll just put it in like an extended video. One video I'll just keep like to the point, one I'll just ramble on, in case anyone's actually interested in that. Oh, and before I forget, I have to pick the other people that will be tagged as a result of this video. So, I've given it some thought, and the people I want to pick are, well, first I want to pick Chris Tenarium, because I know he'll get a kick out of this, and I'm just interested to see what his response will be if he even decides to do this, or if he just responds to us on Twitter being like, no way in hell I'm going to do one of these videos. But yeah, Chris Tenarium is another guy who does gameplay videos on YouTube. He does visual novels like I do, except he does a lot more, and he seems to know a lot more about visual novels than I do. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. In some ways, I kind of pity him that he has to play certain games. I mean, some games are definitely decent in the visual novel realm, but he has certainly exposed me to a lot of the less well-developed games in the visual novel community. But anyway, if you don't know who he is, check him out. I'm sure a lot of you probably do, because I know we share a lot of viewers amongst each other, because we kind of do the same kinds of games, and a lot of the same games we've done. The second person that I want to pick for this tagged kind of video is Mike Money Gamer. He, if you don't know, is another YouTube Let's Player who we've done a few games together with, or at least I have. And he's a pretty good friend of mine, because we've talked a bit before through emails and other things, discussing games and video game systems and that kind of thing, and Let's Playing in general. And the kind of videos he does are, well, kind of different. He does a whole bunch of different games, really. He's been focusing a lot on RPGs, I think, recently, although I could be wrong, because like he has a bunch of games. Kind of like me, he has a bunch of games that are like on the back burner, which I don't know like when I'm going to get around to, and I'm sure he doesn't know when he'll get around to, but like they're out there to do at some point. So yeah, Mike, I'm sure you're probably likely to do this because, I don't know, you seem like you'd be into this kind of thing. Maybe I'm wrong. But those are the two picks I have. I can't really think of a third. The reason being is that a lot of the people that I would have picked were also picked by Christy. Dark Wolf Delta and Super Sisona. I would have picked one of them probably. But since she picked them, obviously I can't. I'm not even sure if they did the videos yet, so I guess I could re-pick them and be like, okay, now you do it this time. But actually, I don't really imply that there's any rush to do these. Obviously, I took the time doing mine, if you look at the date that Christy did hers. So it wouldn't be right for me to be like, okay, quickly, snap it out. I want to see it tomorrow or in a week or even a month. Like, there's no rush to do it. If you even want to do it, it's an optional thing. So don't feel pressured if I picked you of the two people I picked. But I can say that for anyone else out there, if you're watching this video and you want to do a response of your own, go ahead and you could send me the link or leave it as a comment, and maybe I'll post it as an annotation or in a link in the description. I don't know, one of those things. Okay, I rambled on for far too long. I'm sick of this. I'm sure you are too. So I'm ending it. Thank you for watching. I hope you found some of this interesting, and maybe you learned something about me, or you gained some interesting insight into my opinions on video games, or maybe it'll influence your mind on something that I talked about itself. Like maybe you'll like, oh yeah, Kingdom Hearts is shit. Probably not, but that's just a joke. No offense, Kingdom Hearts fans. I'm sure you have great... Oh, the sun is rising. No, actually, that's my lamp that's actually causing that light. I had a... You know what? I'm not explaining it. Bye. Take care, and I'll see you next time. This is like the fucking... See you guys. That was a perfect ending.